who? Oh, wait, there she is. There she is.
Sorry.
You're okay. You're like way ahead of us.
It's my mum's 80th birthday. We've been celebrating today, so.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
But yeah, I literally got back about 15 minutes ago, and yeah.
Let me see if we're up here. Oh, it won't show up on mine.
It's up. I have it up there.
There it is. Perfect. Okay. Well, hi everybody who is watching. I'm sure this won't be a huge group since it's a really specific niche for a book, but I wanted to start doing these on my channel monthly with my subscribers because we always do a buddy read on my Discord channel, in case you watching don't know that. And we recently added historical romances since there's been this like big boom of historical romances lately, which just makes me happy because I've been a lover for a long time. And so, yeah, I thought we would do these like monthly chats and get to talk more in depth about it. And yeah, I just love doing that stuff. So I'll just want to introduce yourself real quick. I'll just go across the top. Tamika.
Hi, my name is Tamika. I'm from Library of Tomes. Jen asked me to read this book 2 days ago, and I did.
I'm Bree. I'm from 11 Words, and I had this book on my TBR anyway. So when Jen mentioned that they were doing the show, I decided I'd read it in like a day, and I did, and I loved it.
Lynn, I just rope people into stuff. Lynn, go ahead and say hi.
Hi, I'm Lynn. I don't have a YouTube channel, but I am thinking about it.
Do it.
I am a huge romance reader, but not an historical romance reader. And this is only my second book. So
that amazes me. Like, it amazes me. Because Lynn is who I go to for any like dark romances, gay romances, like any of that stuff. I go to her because she always has it for me. But historical, she's like, haven't read any. I'm like, okay. Laura, I'll let you say.
You have to read Sea of Ruin, right, Jen?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. I'm Laura from Laura's Library Card. I have a booktube channel, and I'm on Jen's Discord server, so that's where I found out about this book, and it was available at my library. So I went ahead and signed up to do this chat before I'd even gotten the book. So there was one moment there where I thought, well, the library better have it because I already agreed to do this. But.
Right. Well, I always see these, like, when people do these book clubs, that there's always somebody who's like, oh, I just finished this before I turned on my camera. And I'm like, I just couldn't do that. And part of the reason I wanted to have scheduled live shows is sometimes with our buddy reads, I don't always get to them because it's something that my viewers vote on. And I don't always want to read the one that gets voted on. And I'm such a mood reader that I feel bad that I'm committing to a book and then I don't follow through. So by adding the historical category, I always make myself read it because I love those. But anyway, well, what we're going to do is I sent everyone like notes ahead of time because I'm anal retentive that way. You're welcome. And I need us to be. Laura asked me, she's like, so are you going to be guiding us point by point, or is it more like general? And I was like, I just like to have a plan. I'm a person, I like a plan. We don't have to perfectly follow a plan, but I need a plan. So that's why we have it. So what I wanted us to start with before getting into spoilers, because obviously this is going to be a 99% spoiler chat since I hope you've read the book if you're watching it. But I wanted us each to like give our star rating and, you know, like a few things you liked about it. And then we'll kind of do like a plot summary. We'll go to that next. But what do some people think? Let's start the other way. Laura, let's start with you. We'll go back the other way this time.
I haven't read a ton of historical romance, but this was enjoyable to me. I liked that it was a retelling. I would probably rate it I mean, I really enjoyed it from start to finish. So I got like a solid 4 stars for me. And I liked the Steamy levels. So it was an enjoyable, pretty quick read for me.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely be talking about the Steam. I love it. Lynn?
I gave it 4 stars. So I enjoyed it. I did have some problems with it, and that is actually, in general, the problems that I thought I would have with historical fiction. I don't know whether you want me to go into it or not, but yeah, overall, I loved it. So
yeah, excellent. Yeah, we'll get into more of that stuff in another part. But awesome, 4 stars for you, Bree.
So I gave it 4.5 stars, but I rounded it up to 5. And I love Beauty and the Beast retellings, and I love scarred heroes. And he was like a scarred hero. He didn't just have like a scar; like he was scarred, and internally and externally. And I loved that about him. And I loved the heroine too. I like strong heroines in historical romances. So thumbs up.
Yeah. To me.
So I really liked it. I can't say that I was going to give it a 5-star. I actually haven't put it in my spreadsheet yet, so I don't really know the exact star rating, but if I had to do it just based off of how I feel about it, it's a 4-star. It was like really good. But the issue that I had with it was that it was just, there was too much of the back and forth between the 2 characters. It was just like,
you broke the
she was like, I want to be with you, and he was like, you can't. And I just couldn't deal with it.
It wasn't even just that. It was like, oh, he was. Oh, yes, I'm going to be with you. Oh, no, I can't be with you. Oh, no, I am going to be with you. Oh, no, I can't be with you. Oh, my God.
Okay, we'll get there. That's something I think why a lot of us knocked it off. I also gave it a 4.5, but I rounded it up to 5 because, as I've said many times, like for me, it's always the overall impression I get left with from the book. And I have quite a few like different moments written down where I agree that the conflict was too back and forth with everything. But when they had breakthroughs for things, I feel like they both had some major stuff they were overcoming. Like they weren't just going wishy-washy because they couldn't commit. It was actual fear of having been hurt before or having, mental roadblocks as to why. So even though while I'm reading it, I was like, oh, stop going back and forth. Oh my God. When I look at it as a whole, I can see why they were having those issues.
Yeah.
And then, the end marker of it left me feeling really good and really intrigued for the sequel to this book. So I would give it a 4.5 and then round up to a 5. For really the same reasons Bree said, I love a scarred hero. I love a woman who tells you to just shut up, like you're wrong. Like I love all that stuff. So that was awesome.
They both had a lot of trauma that they had to go through. So that's a lot of stuff that they have to work through. And if it were realistically, people fight over the same things over and over and over again in relationships. Like that's just a realistic thing that happens. It's annoying, but it's realistic.
It is really annoying, but for me, the way I rate my books is more on how I feel rather than objectively what it's about. So I'm a bit more critical. Like Jen is just so forgiving of so many things. You are, Jen. You really are. I'll bring up a point that I didn't like about the book. I agree. But I just loved it.
Well, did I have fun or I didn't? Like, I don't really have a middle ground. Like, did I like you or I didn't like you? That's why I like the discussions, because there's not a lot of room for nuance in a rating scale that's 1 through 5. Which is one of the reasons I like Tamika's spreadsheet, but I can't quite go as far as you with how many books that I read. Like, if I did that with the 600 books it'll probably look like I'll read this year, I just couldn't do that. But so I kind of have to make a snap judgment of like 4 or 5. And what pushes it into a 5 is like, did I cry, which is a lot of times, or, things like that. But anyway, okay. All right. So now let's kind of do the little bit of a plot summary, because I thought this one actually had a lot of interesting plot points that I haven't totally seen before. But it also had a lot of Beauty and the Beast trademarks, even more so. Sometimes there are a lot of books that get roped into a Beauty and the Beast retelling. But this one, I did a lot more of them than some do. So the main plot overview of this one is we have Lord Nathaniel Hart, the Duke of, who read it and who listened to it? Did you all
listen to it?
I read it.
So how do you say the name, Lynn? Beswick or Beswick?
Beswick, I say.
See, this is why I wanted Lynn here, because the narrator also said Beswick, but you know, if I'd been reading it, I would have said Beswick. And every person who names this book says Beswick because they're American and dumb. Well, I'm agreeing with you. And so I listened to it and I was like, who's Beswick? What's this? And it took me a couple minutes of listening to it to be like, oh, that's because that's how you say his name. Okay.
Yes, it is. That's how you say it in English.
Yeah. But anyway, so we have him. He's a grumpy old scarred war hero living in his estate. And then we have Astrid and Isabella Everly, who they are in kind of a tight position. Their aunt and uncle are trying to marry Isabella off to this douche canoe named Edmund Kane. I think that's his name. I made a list of all the names so I wouldn't forget.
Listen, I don't know names. Period. Point blank, forgot them all already.
Yeah, that's why I wrote them down. And the thing that we find out very quickly is that the reason why Astrid doesn't want her sister to marry this guy is that she was engaged to him before and he assaulted her. So we find that out pretty quick in the story. So they go to Thane to basically, like, she proposes to him for a marriage of convenience, to then make Thane would then be the one in charge of her sister as her husband, and then her sister would have to marry this guy. But Thane says, no, I'm not going to marry anybody. And she's like, please, let's do this. And he's like, no, I'm not going to marry anybody. I'm not going to do that.
Don't like that his reason for not marrying her changes.
Yes. Because he doesn't want to give his family any more heirs is a thing too, which that's one of my least favorite plot points, by the way. Like, gives me flashbacks to the Duke and I when I like hate that plot point. But he's had a tough life. It's fine. Well, so then things escalate with her family where they're really pressuring her sister to marry this guy. So they run away back to Beswick Beswick. See, I'm going to say the wrong thing. And she says, well, how about I categorize all the antiques that your father owned for a charity auction that you're going to hold, and you let us live here under your protection. And he's like, fine. And I'll bring my aunt, who's the coolest character in the book, to come stay with me so that it's proper or whatever. And you can do that. So that's the basic plot outline there. And then happiness ensues from that.
A few bumps in the road.
Yes. So kind of the next question that I'd posted to you guys was, what did I say next? I said about the characters. What was your favorite and least favorite thing about both of the main characters? So whoever wants to go, you can do Thane or ask you first, whatever you want.
Shall I go?
Go for it.
Okay, so for Thane, I think it has to be what I've already brought up, that his constant to-ing and fro-ing. I'm surprised Astrid didn't get whiplash. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, for God's sake, man. I understand you had problems. I do get that, and I do think it's realistic. But he was very, well, he kept leading her on, didn't he? Really? Do you know what I mean? If he was determined not to be with her, then he shouldn't be having sex with her, really. It was a bit unfair, I felt. So that was my...
You're so nice. It was a bit unfair.
Yeah. And what I liked about him was actually, despite all the gruffness and all the things, his actual goodness. He was a really, really good man who wanted to help people out. And despite the majority of people being horrible to him, he still was a really, really good man.
Grumpy hero with a heart. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah. Do you want me to do Astrid as well?
Yeah, go for it. Just you both.
She was just a kick-ass, amazing. I loved her, absolutely loved her. To tell you the truth, I don't really think I've got anything that I didn't like about her.
Mhm.
She was feisty, and she knew her own mind, and I loved her. And I was sat there doing my homework, and and I just thought, I can't think of anything negative. Maybe you might be able to, but I couldn't. So
I like how resilient she was, because she kept getting knocked down, but she was like, you know what? No, I know you better than you know yourself. Like,
Yeah.
I love those kind of female characters.
Mm-hmm. I liked Astrid quite a bit. At one point, I felt a little bit like, can this girl do anything poorly? I guess needlepoint she was meant about, but everything else, she was like, I ride, I swim, I know ancient Chinese pottery, and I can like handle you no problem. And I just was kind of like, can you not? Is there like one thing you don't do well?
Yeah.
Men. She didn't do men very well.
One thing I know, when they were looking at ancient Chinese pottery, I was like, I really wish there was a convention for people who love Ming Dynasty pottery, so that Ian and Astrid can have a little powwow or something.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, they would be friends. This would be fun. Chinese stuff. Okay. So yeah, Astrid. Yeah, that was the thing too, is because all the things I was writing down about her, I was like, none of them are like bad things. They're just considered bad by the time. Because I was like, it literally on the front of the cover says that she's a shrew, which I feel like it's a bad connotation, but it's just a woman who like talks basically is considered a shrew then. And, like,
no, it says on Goodreads that this is a retelling of both Beauty and the Beast and The Taming of the Shrew.
Yes.
That was where that came from.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And which I've never read that one, but I assume it's a little like that. But I don't feel that he really tamed her. Like there wasn't taming happening at all.
I think she tamed him, if anything else.
Yes. What was I going to say? She definitely, she's a go-getter. I love that about her. I mean, obviously I've read other heroines who are like trying to save a family member or trying to do something like that, but she is willing to completely ruin herself for her sister because she already feels ruined. You know, she is in the eyes of people, but that she's willing to, first off, go beg this guy to marry her, then be willing to still go back to his house and get a job from him after he's kind of humiliated her by turning her down. And then to just keep trying to find all these ways to keep her sister safe. I was actually really frustrated with her sister in this book, which
a bit,
which I'm sure there'll be more of in her book. But I was like, so I just really loved her. I love the horse stuff. I love the just how she's willing to get into sexual situations with him after she was assaulted by someone who she was with. Like that was something that was cool about her to me, is she's like, I can tell that this is different. There wasn't any like flashbacks really that happened or things like that. And that
was she really assaulted, or was it she just fended off some advances?
Well, he was really going for it. Like, I mean, I would consider that an assault. I'm not saying it was she stopped a rape from happening, because he would have done that. I just think that it was someone who like wasn't going to take no for an answer. And I don't know, but that being the point, I just really like that about her. And so that's what made Fane, who would then be quiet after it every time, so frustrating. Is it's like this woman is taking all of the risk and you are then freaking out and running away. And that was like hard for me to handle with him doing that. But and Fane, all the things we've said. My favorite thing is like a protective grumpy hero, and I love how he like doesn't want her there, but he sees her going off riding this dangerous horse and he's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go save her. And I love that kind of stuff.
Me too.
Where she's like, why are you coming to stop me? Like, why do you care? And it's like, well, I can't have you die on my land or something. It's like, oh really, that's what it is.
when he's just like, God damn it, why do I have to care about you?
Stop giving me feelings.
Right.
Whatever you have to tell yourself, Thane.
Yep. Tamika, how'd you feel about them?
I loved Thane. I loved his I love that he was a broken hero. That's like my favorite, other than, you know, a couple other ones. That's like it's in my top 5 favorite like types of characters. And he was just a precious being. Other than him deciding he can't make up his mind, that part just made me want to punch him. And then the only thing I didn't like about Astrid, I always say her name wrong, is that she did everything perfect. Everything. It was like there wasn't anything she couldn't do. So like literally all the points you all have made is how I feel about the book or about the characters. But I do love that she was just like, she took shit from no one.
Yeah.
Love that about her.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Any thoughts from, let's see what I got in the, here we got some down here. Yes, she's awesome. I like this. Grumpy Protective Heroes. That's it. So we got to get you on Kerrigan Byrne because that's all she does. That's all she writes. Like, get on that.
For me, with Astrid though, it was actually a really pleasant surprise for me because, as Jen knows, for romance, I prefer male romances, and that's mainly because I generally get annoyed by the way the women gets written, because they're more annoying than the male heroes. They really are. And so many times I get annoyed by the woman that I kind of at one point stopped reading MF romances. And so this was really nice to actually just really, really like the female. It was, I really, really appreciated it.
And the fact that it was historical too.
Yeah. Well, that's something when we get into, I mean, we can transition into that part now too, is like some of our favorite scenes. The like non-sex scene, that's going to be a different category because we're going to talk about that. But some of our favorite scenes of the book that were just like their relationship building. And for me, one of those was when, where is it? There was 2 that I like pointing out. One of them was when he shows up and is ready to marry her, and she's like wearing her breeches. So 188, like, I'm wearing breeches, thing, and he's like, I would any other way. Like that's his first like crack of like gets married, which I just love that happened in a historical romance.
Yeah.
And my other favorite scene is when she wears the red dress. And like that dress better have a plan. And she's like, I'm working on it. Okay, I'm working.
That is probably my favorite scene in the whole book because I love the aunt and how she's just like, good job. I love that in books, like when the girl has a big glow up and she uses it as like a weapon. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah. I kept wondering when the red dress was going to show up because I was like, the color of the dress on the cover will be the color of a dress in the book. Like that happens usually.
As you mentioned, because you've mentioned the cover, I have to say a lot of times I hate historical romance covers. Absolutely hate them. But these are beautiful. Absolutely beautiful, these ones.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the sequel cover is purple.
Yeah.
Is it? I haven't seen it.
Beautiful.
Yeah. The Raquel of Roth is the second book. You should look up a picture of it. It's gorgeous. So what were some other people's favorite non-sex scenes? We'll get to those in a minute.
Okay, mine's not a sex scene, but it's a steamy scene still.
Okay.
It's literally when they are alone together and he's just been like, we're gonna get married, and then everyone comes in and like catches them like all in the act of being all floony together. I loved it. It was my favorite part.
Yeah.
Basically, a lot of my highlights were any time that Thane's assistant, whatever he's called, I can't remember his name. He was hilarious.
Yeah.
I loved him.
They had great side characters, and then
yeah. And yeah, so basically any time that he was in, I was chuckling away to myself. So yeah, they stand out for me.
Yeah. Fletcher and Colbert are his two servants, and Patrick is hers. And I was like, they're definitely giving me like Cogsworth and
yeah,
for sure. And I love. So that's one of my favorite scenes that doesn't have anything to do with them. Is he's like, okay, they're gonna stay. Please call my aunt, and they're like, she'll be arriving tomorrow. When did you call for my aunt? The first time she arrived. And he's like, I'm gonna fire you. And he's like, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I love anyone who meddles. Like, really, if there is there's a meddling parent who's meddling for good, or an aunt, or a best friend group, especially servants. Like, the entire book, The Bride, like, happens because of a meddling servant. It's amazing. Like, I love when there's meddling people who do it for a good reason, because they're like, you guys are too prideful, so let me help out. Like, when it's that kind of thing. But let's talk about, before we go to sex then, let's talk about Aunt Mabel, who is Rachelian, is what she calls herself.
Yeah. I want her book.
Yes,
yeah.
I can see a novella about her. Like, I can see her not making a full book for her, but like that is it the servant or the young lord that she's flirting with at that party? Like, that needs to be a novella.
Yeah.
Just like at night, because I want to read that stuff.
I really liked the character of Aunt Mabel. She really functioned to bring humor for the reader, and I think she really kind of inspired Astrid to, I mean, she was there to like hand out little nuggets of wisdom to both her nephew and to Astrid. And I think she like really inspired Astrid to like stay the course and like, pursue Thane.
Mm-hmm. Well, and doesn't she even say to, she's like, you're going to have to go for it because he's not going to do it. Like, that's basically what she says, is like, he's not going to make the move. You have to do it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Astrid fighting for him because of her.
She was just an excellent character. Really, I mean, provided some light relief and laughs, but as well as a meaningful character to drive the story as well, because of, as you just said, the encouragement that she gave Astrid. And insight into him as well, of what he was like. Yeah. So, yeah.
And I think Thane appreciates Astrid and the way she is and accepts her because of his aunt. Like, he's used to that. He respects her and he loves her. So it's because of her that he loves Astrid so much.
Yeah, definitely. Very good point. Yeah.
So one thing I do want to ask a question about, because I will fully admit that I don't always pick up on the things that don't have to do with the romantic part of a book. Like, I'll be honest about it. Why did he hate his dad so much? People know. Did he just not want to have more? Like, I felt like he hates his dad because he wants to just throw. He like doesn't he use a cricket bat to like break stuff when he's so like, why did he do that?
He hates his dad. One, I got the impression, it didn't really say it that well, but I got the impression that he was kind of a cold and distant father when he was bringing him up. And then when he came back from war and he was all mangled up, the father wanted nothing to do with him.
No, the father died of a heart attack as soon as he saw Thane.
Yeah.
But I think that Thane also had this older brother that had always been sort of he was the heir, and like the older brother was like the favored son. So there was some of that, I think.
Okay. That's so often like the dude, they always hate their dad, which is like, there's very few that I've read where they like their dad. Always some damage. Well, it's like, I feel like it's the boarding school thing, or it's the can't show emotion. Like, that's the reasons that they use. And then if they, there can't be a duke who has a dad still. Like, your dad's always dead if you have a duke, right?
Right.
if you're a Viscount or an Earl, maybe your dad's still alive. But if you're a Duke, your dad's definitely dead. I'm starting to know things, Lynn. I did research for my historical romance thing, and I know things.
I thought that Thane's main reason for not wanting any children was because he was convinced that like no child should have a like shameful father that people whispered about and called a beast and whatever. And so that was the main reason why he didn't want to have kids.
Okay. I thought that, and then I just remember, like, I knew that he was also breaking all the antiques. So I was like, well, he must hate his dad, because why would you do that? But let's talk about a couple of the really sweet things he did, like the fact that all of that stuff he's going to sell for charity, and then have a fund for war heroes, and also it was also for women. There was something for women too, right?
Yeah.
Was it?
He bought the building.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, the building.
The buildings.
Yeah.
For Astrid to like open a school for girls.
That's
Which to me was the parallel with Beast giving Belle the gorgeous library.
I know. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And then there's the part where he's like, and what are we going to do with all the money? And they're like, well, let's start a fund for war heroes. And I was like, let's do that. Because they need that. Especially then, man, like, just as bad. Yeah. Okay. Well, let us translate into the steamy scenes of this, because there was a lot. This was great. I did not know that this was going to be this steamy, and it made me very happy because I hadn't seen anyone say that it was. So, as Lynn, I want to ask you first this, because you haven't read any historicals. So, were you impressed / surprised / cool with how much was in it? How do you feel? Because I mean, I've read historicals steamier than this. They're about the same, but.
I wasn't surprised, actually. I kind of got the impression that historical fictions in general were steamy, so maybe I'm wrong here. But this was my other problem with the book, is that I've kind of ignored historical fiction for a long time because I didn't think it'd be what I would like, because it'd be too much heaving breasts and that kind of thing, and it was a bit. It was a bit. It wasn't. The sex scenes weren't as bad as I thought they were going to be, but they were a bit. I much prefer the language more straightforward. And yeah, it was just too
flowery.
Maybe, yes. Yeah, I can't quite get my words around it. It's just that I've always said, oh yeah, I don't want the heaving breasts kind of thing, and it's flowery, maybe, yes. Okay. I like it more straightforward. So, but it wasn't as bad as I thought.
Okay. Good to know. How about you guys who are maybe newer to it?
Are you calling me out?
No, Breeze too.
It's steamier than I expected, because again, like you said, not many people have talked about it, and it's probably one of the more steamier ones that I've read. And I've read what, like 5 or 7 historical romances, and I wish they were all this level of steam. And as far as like how, like the language that was used in it, I'm usually pretty sensitive about how things are described in sex scenes. Like certain words, I'm like, don't say that. Like, can you not? But I don't remember anything standing out in particular of how it was described that I didn't like.
Okay, I'm just going to say, I thought it was really funny when they were there was about to be a sex scene, and she was describing it like she was describing him. And it was just,
I don't care.
Okay. She was like, dick.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay. Didn't think that was going to happen in a historical, but okay. I didn't think historicals would be steamy. We obviously have, I've now know the difference now.
Yeah.
I know they are steamy. And I would like all of them to be like that. kind of like, I wish all of them were on like that level with that much.
It wasn't over the top. I feel like it was just enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
I like the theater scene. That was some
yeah.
of my favorite.
I liked the end of the red dress up against a door scene.
That was hot. That one was hot.
Yeah.
Love up against the door, always.
Even though it's kind of unrealistic, really, because quite frankly, it's really quite hard to have sex up against a door.
Yeah,
especially with big long skirts that she has to like hold up.
No,
and like, what were their heights too? Because I feel like that is often ignored. Like sometimes things don't line up.
Well, he definitely lifted her up. That was the thing. Yeah. So couple things. I was taking everything you guys were saying. So a couple of things I would address. Number one, there is a huge variant, obviously, just like in contemporary, about how much steam you're going to find in books. I feel like, Lynn, maybe you've only heard about, like, not only heard about, but I mean, like, I mostly only read the really steamy ones. And so if you're watching my videos and the other ones, like, I'm really recommending lots of ones with steam because that's what I want in mine. Also, I'm finding even in some of the, like, in newer ones, yes, there is being a lot more sex too, but I'm finding in even some of the older ones I've read, like The Bride, that had lots of sex in it. And yes, some of them, like, it's not written as graphically as, like, in Kerrigan Byrne's books, like, she uses terms that are going to be in contemporary. Like, hers are pretty, like, raw scenes. And then there's a middling where they're like, Tessa Dare, hers are pretty graphic, but they're not, like, full scale that, but those are really steamy. So there's going to be a range of everything. It's just the books that I'm usually suggesting to people have higher steam because I know that's what's going to get them to try historical is they're afraid that it's going to be too PG and they're going to be bored. So I'm suggesting books of like Jennifer Ashley, Kerrigan Byrne, Tessa Dare, like they all have copious amounts of copulation books. But I thought it was a really good level of steam. I didn't think it was going to start as like early as it did. So that was cool. I like that it started pretty soon and that they were just like drawn together like magnets, right? And I really like hate sex a lot. And there was a lot of hate kissing in the beginning. And I love that where they're just their chemistry so much that they're just like, oh, the only way I'm ending this argument is if I kiss you, you'll shut up. Like I love that. Yeah, especially in the beginning of it where all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, he's kissing me. Oh my God, I really like it. What's happening? I love that in any genre.
Yeah.
But then my favorite sex scene was when she sees him naked for the first time, because I wrote down what page. She doesn't see him naked until page 354. All the rest of their sex scenes have been in the dark, in the water, or he's been partially clothed. So this is how far into the book. Because he is like fully scarred. Like he is scarred. Like he needs to do the swimming for his muscles so they don't like atrophy. Like he straight up is really injured. Like his face, I sounds like he's missing some of his hair, because he wears the cap. He's like really scarred. And it was just such a powerful moment where she's like, just let me see you. Like, I'm not going to leave because of what you look like. I felt it. Just let me see it. And so that to me was his like final curtain drop. And so that makes that sex scene so much more emotional and powerful. And I just loved it.
And she legitimately thinks he's handsome. Like when he got dressed up and stuff, she's like, you look handsome. He's like, okay. But she does. It's like she's not just saying it to make him feel better. She feels that way. She sees past it.
Yeah. And I think it was their maybe second time together, not their, consummation part, but the maybe second time they were together. And he kind of has given in and then he douses the light and she's thankful for it because she is like, he needs to hide his body and I need to hide my heart. And I was just like, oh, the feels.
Yeah. Well, and I think in her head, she's honest about it too, where she's like, I don't want anything on my face to scare him away because I really want to do it. So I don't want to like give him the wrong impression until I'm sure. And I think that's a really honest thing in her head to be like, maybe I will be horrified, but not horrified of him, horrified of what was done to him. Like that's right. Always the thing in a Beauty and the Beast book really is it's like the heroine being horrified at what's done to them, not because they look bad, but because they know what must have happened to them to make them look that way, you know, because his was the bayonets, right? Like he was attacked. Is that him? Is that another scar?
Yeah, okay. No, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, because he basically like did a suicide mission to, you know, and he's just everywhere. So that was just such a powerful scene for me. That I was looking it up here because he's like, why are you okay with looking at me? And she's like, I don't want one of those sodding fools, you idiot. They're too full of themselves and too much maintenance. I was like,
yeah.
He's high maintenance too.
He's a dark tabby and a grumpy beast any day. I was like, oh, so cute. So love them. Yeah. Any other? I think we touched on a lot of those, but
I felt that there was really good sexual tension throughout the whole book. Even from their first meeting, he is impressed with her fire and feistiness, and she is sort of like surprised at how attracted she is to him. And like the first time they ever see each other face to face, he's just climbed out of the pool and he's naked, and she's like, my bad, sorry. So I felt like there was good tension throughout the book, and it just escalated while they worked on their conflict with each other. And I appreciated that.
Yes. Oh, I forgot what I was going to mention about the one where she sees him for the first time. And this is one of my favorite things to happen in romance, just at all. Is she's like, that's been inside of me the whole time.
Yes.
I love it so much. That's like, I don't know. I think other people feel the same. But that's one of my favorite things in any romance is if they've like done it in the dark before. And she's like, I know that it fits, but how? And it's like, oh, God. But I love it. Like it's so easy. And I love it. Sorry. That just happened in another book I was reading too, and I was like, oh, I love this.
Like the random things in romance that you love. You don't until it happens.
Well, things that aren't enough to be a trope or like a thing, but they're fun. Like, although you can find lists for things on Goodreads. Like one time I looked up all the like pierced penises there was, and the list is called Pierced Peckers. There is a list on Goodreads called Pierced Peckers, and I looked it up.
There are gazillions of lists on Goodreads.
Yeah.
That's another rec video, Jen.
Why?
That's what I was laughing at earlier. I could just imagine you doing a rec video of the trope. Does that fit in me?
That probably wouldn't work that if I named it something like that, because obviously if I put any anatomy part in it, it'll get tagged. But if I named it like, or do a picture, like use emojis,
just put it on the thumbnail.
Yeah. But well, here's a picture I looked up because once I started looking up those kind of things, I was like, wait. There's like 50 different kinds of piercings you can have on that. So then I looked up a map, and there's a little anatomical map that says like what they all are.
Anyway, one thing I appreciated that I've seen a few times in historical romances, because usually the girl is virginal, is that like the girl is always like so tentative, and like the guy is usually this rake, and so he's just like, her enthusiasm makes up for her naivete. And in this book, she never really goes through that. No. So I appreciated her not like fumbling and being too scared.
Yeah. Yeah. I love whenever I read in where there isn't a huge conversation about that. Like I just read one where the dude had like when they were just fooling around the one night, he like popped stuff around up in there. So he's like, next time we do this, then it won't hurt so bad. I'm like, okay. This is still a myth. I don't know. Interesting thing. Like when you read hundreds of romances, you've seen a lot of people's first times in books. Yeah. And there's certain things that stick out. Yes, I do some very interesting deep dive. It happened at 2 a.m. when, anyway, it's research. It's all for research. I make videos on these things. Anyway, okay, all right. Let's transfer this over. So one of the other things I want to go over is like how many of the things are from like the Beauty and the Beast tale, and all the things we could notice, because I found like 10 different things. So what are
loads? Yeah.
I really liked because this one, it even had a suitor, which I feel like that doesn't happen a lot of times. Like it's usually just that he's a beast and she ends up stuck at his house, but there's never like a Gaston character kind of.
Yeah.
There was one of those. I like that she was like making the deal like for her sister instead of like for a dad or something. That was kind of interesting. The servants. Yeah, I love servants.
I'm trying.
That was where I saw some of the strongest parallels. Sorry, go ahead, Brie.
No, I was just saying, I was trying to think of who the ant character could be aligned with in Beauty and the Beast. Who?
That's what I thought.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
More modern.
Kind of like Chip. Even though they're not like, she's not his son, but like Patrick who comes over. And then there's a horse too. There's like she like runs away on the horse and goes after her to bring her back. There was a lot in this. I just kept noticing this.
It's definitely one of my all-time favorite retellings of Beauty and the Beast now.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, because that's the next question is some recommendations if we have. What are some of our other favorite Beauty and the Beast retellings?
Okay, so Dark and Lonely.
Yes, that's my all-time favorite one, hands down.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Years ago, I read a YA retelling of Beauty and the Beast. It's just called Beast, and the author is Donna Jo Napoli. And so that one's actually interesting because the prince is like Middle Eastern, and so he's turned into like a beastly lion kind of beast, and then he travels across Europe to go to like find a castle, and then ultimately finds like a French girl. But like his origins are sort of Middle Eastern, and there's like in the start there's camels, and like instead of a witch it's like a genie that turns him into a beast.
I don't remember any of the retellings that I've read other than like Beastly. Did you ever read that? It was like, it came out in like 2009.
Yeah,
there was like a movie that went with it.
Yeah,
I don't remember any other.
Alex Flynn is the author. Yeah, I like that one as a kid. Well, I mean, Beast by Katie Robert is my most recent favorite. And then I also just read one, I was just on my wrap up from today, that was called, it was called The Virgin and the Beast. And it was actually like a pregnancy contract instead of a like paying off a debt. And that was really good. I just read that one. That's by Stacia Black, I think.
A few years ago, I read one called The Beast's Heart, and it's a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, almost word for word like the Disney one, except it's from the Beast's point of view. And it was very interesting. It didn't give me everything that I hoped. He was a little too wimpy for me in it, but
Wimpy.
Yeah, he was a little too like the longing was in there, but he wasn't, I don't know, angry enough, I guess. But it was good.
Yeah.
I think the problem with Beauty and the Beast is it's probably one of the most told story, isn't it? So that means you've got this wide range, and so that means you end up with a lot of rubbish ones. So I think it gets a bad rep, does Beauty and the Beast retellings, because of that. I don't know why it's one of the most popular ones, but I don't know really.
Hate to Love, it's pretty popular.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. Is like I think it also is a Hate to Love. There's even some like that are like a Pride and Prejudice Beauty and like version together. I feel like there's a lot of historicals that are. So I have quite a few for that. There's one that's called When Beauty Tamed the Beast by Louisa James. There's one called When She Said I Do by Celeste Bradley. That one also has a very scarred hero. and she has a whole family who there's a storm, their carriage breaks down, they break into his house. She finds his like treasure room and she's like trying on the jewelry, and then he comes in and he thinks that he's dreaming. He thinks she's a like a goddess that he's dreaming about, and so he starts like kissing her and touching her, and she's like, I'm real, and just and he's like, oh no. And so then her brother, this is all the first chapter, then her brother walks in, sees him mauling her, challenges him to a duel. So then they go out to fight, and she, instead of them fighting, is like, how about to pay you back for all this, I'll marry you instead. And he's like, sure, that works. So it's a very interesting start of it. But he's also.
Did you like it? Did you like the book?
Oh yeah, 5-star, totally. I reread it this year because that's the first in a whole series that has, like, they're called the Wicked Worthingtons, and like they're all pretty sexy books. Like the second one is about twin boys, and they're both in love with the same lady, and they are literally like, let's see who can win her first. So they're both like having encounters with this lady, so she'll pick one of them.
Wait, I love that.
So yeah, they're all pretty good.
Shay Geeks Out has done some recommendations in the chat as well.
Yes, I haven't read this yet. I need to read this because I heard there's rope and bondage in it, and I really want to read it. Because it's like a pirate, and he ties him up. That's what I heard. But I tried The Wicked and the Wallflower 3 times, and I can't get past a certain part. I'm going to just have to buy the audio because I want to get into Sarah McLean because I love her, the human. But I'm like afraid to read her books and not like them now. I like her so much. I'm like afraid I won't like her books. Super stupid, but you know, I have all.
It took me a while to get into Wicked and the Wallflower. Yeah.
Okay. I feel like she's trying to set up the whole series in that first book.
Yeah.
And so like getting to the point of it, and a trope I don't like too much is I don't like the trope of let me help you find a husband. It's not one of my favorite things because I feel like it takes too long.
Yeah.
But I want to read Beast, Brazen and the Beast, and I want to read Daring and the Duke. So I might just skip to those. But they tell a full story, so that's why I'm nervous. I'm not someone who likes to read mine out of order. I will. Yeah. But I don't like to because I like watching the characters grow. So even though there's arguments for it that like, well, you know, each couple is going to be happy, so it's not a spoiler to know who's together. But I just don't like to do that. I'm like, I want to read it in order so I get to see how it happens.
I would prefer to read them in order, but I read them out of order on accident all the time because it's so hard to tell.
And that's why I try to tell people if they need to, because there's plenty, like the Bridgertons, you could read those out of order. Like it's fine. They're not in each other's enough to need to. And Tessa Dare, you can read a lot of hers out of order and it's fine. But like Jennifer Ashley, like you need to read that series in order because there's secrets that will come out if you skip, you know, like the first 4 books, like they need to be in order because otherwise you like, if you don't have Ian's book and don't know all the secrets in the family, it would like ruin that book for you if you read another one first. So like there's certain series you like need to read in order, but other ones, authors write them to be standalone, so it doesn't matter, you know?
Yeah.
So on
do
that
you
series,
have Hoopla?
Go ahead.
What? Do you have Hoopla?
No.
Okay, well, I was going to say the audiobook for Wicked and the Wallflower is on Hoopla.
Oh, nice.
So, if anyone wants to know, I looked it up just for you.
Thanks. Go ahead, Bree.
I was just wondering if that Jennifer Ashley series, if it's prominently said on the cover that it's part of a series and what number it is. That's my biggest peeve with historical romance paperbacks is half the time it doesn't even say what series it is, or it's very small and definitely doesn't say which book it is.
Yeah. I mean, that's just something that if you're new to historical romance, it's a learning curve. Like it is. Like they so rarely will number their books. Like Sarah McLean's books, they all stay on the front. Well, most of them stay on the front, like book 3 in the Scoundrel series.
Oh, that's
like,
nice. Yeah.
but like the Bridgertons, it doesn't say on the front. Like Jennifer Ashley's, like it doesn't say. But because I've been reading historical romance for 15 years, like I look inside and figure it out, or I'll pull up Goodreads while I'm in, I have it on my phone. So because Goodreads numbers them, which is great. So it's just kind of a learning curve that.
Because what sucks is sometimes, and maybe not necessarily with historical, but I've seen this done on adult series, is you'll read the back of it and it's part of a series. It doesn't say it's part of a series, but then there's spoilers on the synopsis if it's in the middle of the series. And that has driven me crazy. I'm like, just say, like, why? What? I'm seriously curious about what the reason that is. I need to look it up.
My guess would be is they don't want to perturb people from picking up their book. Because it's like, if you pick up Love It and it's book number 5, you're probably going to go back and read them all. Whereas if it picked it up and this said number 5 on it, what if Barnes & Noble doesn't have the other 4? Am I going to go home without a book? Like, because some people might, right? So, I mean, that would be my guess, is that it's like, if you want to know, you can find out, but they don't want to deter you from picking up a book that looks interesting.
Right.
When you could read it and still know what's going on. Because that's the thing, is like, you still will know what's going on in that story. But like with the Mackenzies, I love each of those characters so much. And if I would have known what was going to happen to like Daniel, he's a kid in the first one. If I picked up number 6, which is about him, I'm going to know every other couple and like which kids they had, like all these things. So yeah, I wish they numbered them too. But I mean, I just tell my viewers if they need to read it in order.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can pick this up if you want, it doesn't matter. But like, it matters to me. Like, that stuff matters to me.
Right.
So, I'm very strict about series. I always read them in order.
Yeah. That's why like Lisa Kleypas drives me crazy. Like, I talked with Avery for like an hour last night because she started with the Robinells, which so did I. And so she got to book 3 and she's like, okay, I definitely feel like there must be a book about the parents because they talked about the parents too much. And I was like, it's about 6 books ago. This is the book. And I was like, don't worry. Like, I read the Robinells first. I actually went backwards in order with her series. But if you want to gain from my knowledge, you should start with the Wallflowers and go through so you know what's going on.
Yeah, I was so confused in Cold Hearted Rake on some things. And I was just like, I was like, I'm either dumb or there's stuff I'm not getting.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to go back and I'll probably reread Cold Hearted Rake just so that it like all flows together.
Yeah. And I mean, I didn't know what I was missing out on when I started with Cold Hearted Rake. Like, I knew enough to look up to see what was the first in the Robinell series because I had originally picked up Winterborn and then I was like, oh, this is the second book. And you kind of need to read Cold Hearted Rake first to know what Winterborn, who he is and what he's done before you start the next book. So it's like, I'm glad I did that because I would have been very confused. But there's a rumor too that Lisa Kleypas's next series is going to be about Marcus and Lillian's children. So that one, they'll really want to start with the Wallflowers because if the next series is about their kids, you'd be really confused. So, but good stuff. Well, it is 3:00. Is there any other like parts of this we want to talk about or anything? I would talk forever about whatever you want, but I want to be respectful of your Sunday.
Before we started this, I was skimming through some of the reviews on Goodreads. I always like to read some of the gushiest and the like most disparaging reviews just to like see if either of them have good points. And the thing I was seeing most commonly that people were complaining wasn't like a real Regency. It was anachronistic and that it wasn't like true to the time period. Did anybody else feel that way? I felt that way.
I don't know enough about the time period to tell the difference.
I don't either. I don't know time periods at all.
Yeah. Video coming next week about historical stuff. Well, here's the thing that I would say about that, Laura, is yes. However, most historical romances that have been written in the last 20 years they're written more like this because it is more like easily digestible. There's enough like the rights of the woman are, you know, even though that wasn't a thing at the time, like Astrid is written as a woman who knows what her power is and what she has to offer. Because if you do it the other way, what happened in the 80s and 90s, then you'll have everyone today who will be like, oh my gosh, she had no power. She was like assaulted all the time. And I was like, which do you want? Do you want it to be historically accurate and actually show you what women were going through? Or do you want us to write it a little more progressive, like Tessa Dare in this, where we can enjoy it and not feel bad that the women we read are not cared about, right? So yes, this is a lot how Tessa Dares are written, where you're set in the time, you got the pretty dresses, you got dukes and lords and the ton, but your women are more strong and forward. And yeah, so that's my answer to that. That person, they're correct. But
yeah, but
I enjoyed this, and I think.
Go Laura.
Yeah, go ahead, Lynn. I was just going to say I enjoyed this. I felt like it was a good bridge for people maybe who haven't read historical romance to just dive in 100% without ever touching any Regency anything. This would maybe be a nice intermediate. I just felt like there was a smidgen of language that was used that I was like, oh, okay. But at the same time, I really enjoyed the story. So that's what I care more about. I just saw that as a number one complaint on Goodreads. That was all I was trying to say.
Yeah. That's true.
It's a valid
point. I was about to say, majority of people, even if they complain, they don't really want a realistic story. They don't. I mean, seriously,
no.
people reading historical romance, they really want real. No, they don't.
Right.
Go ahead, Bree.
No, I was saying the same thing. I was just agreeing.
Yeah.
It's a valid thing. I guess if that's something that you really like, I think that's the difference between historical fiction and historical romance. Because I think historical fiction, literary historical fiction, is meant to be very realistic, but historical romance is there's some rose-colored glasses on. And that's okay. But also I don't know anything about the time period, so.
I think that if it wasn't more with the rose-colored glasses, I wouldn't read them. Because that was one thing that kept me from reading them, was just the fact that time period women were treated like garbage, and I don't want to read that. So the fact that they aren't treated like garbage actually is what makes me want to read them.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, and that's what was I going to say about this? Yeah, because it's like I was saying before too, is it's like if it was exactly how it was and how everything was allowed, we would be really uncomfortable with it. Like I think of, when you read a story like Outlander, which is closer to being true, people complain about how much rape and assault there is in those books. I'm like, she's telling you how it was, because this is more historical than it is romance. So then you read a historical romance and it's like, oh my gosh, this isn't anything. I'm like, what do you want?
Right.
It's going to make you uncomfortable if you read it how it is. And it's not that people didn't marry for love. It's not that there wasn't some husbands who weren't assholes. Because I'm not painting that brush that every guy back then was like, this is just fine. But there was more people who were just going with the flow than not. So that's how it's going to be, And being richer didn't mean you had more, more choice. You had less usually because they wanted to keep the money in the family.
Right.
Anyway, I could get on a whole other thing about it, but go ahead.
People just like to complain.
Mm-hmm.
They just like to complain.
That's it. And I'm like the opposite, where I'm like, give me the smutty pirate romance. I don't care about all that stuff. But yeah, so the next month's choice is The Secret by Julie Garwood. So to anyone who ends up watching this, that is what won the poll. The video announcing that comes out in a couple of days, but I wanted to tell everyone. So if you want to get a hold of that, I've only read one Julie Garwood. I read The Bride, and I was very impressed. That came out in '89, I think. And holy crap, it was amazing. So not every book coming out in the 80s and 90s didn't have awesome women and men in it, because she is like toe to toe with my favorite heroines. She was amazing. So I'm really excited to read another book by Julie Garwood because I trust her to tell a story well. So if any of you guys are interested in it, I think a lot of the other booktubers who read historical have talked about it lately. So I wanted to give it a try, and it won my poll. So that will be the next historical. I'll give you
a Scribd if anyone has Scribd. I've seen it there. Yeah.
Well, because I enjoyed this one, I am going to give another one a go. So
yeah.
I've got a question. Are you planning to read the second in the series that you've just read?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. I was going to mention it. So the second book is called The Raquel of Roth. It's supposed to be coming out October and November. I had it on a list. I will completely read it. I loved this one. I'm really interested in it because it's going to be a marriage in trouble. So if you know, everyone who read this, you know that Isabella did marry that guy at the end, the Duke of Roth or the Lord Roth. I can't remember what his title was. And they seem happily wed. And then the synopsis for the next book is that they've been married 3 years and he's abandoned her and been gone. So
interesting.
Yeah, I love marriage in trouble, and I just love that trope. So
November the 24th, it's coming out.
Thanksgiving book. All right. Yeah. Are you guys interested in it too?
I don't know yet.
Fair enough.
I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah. Is Isabella, I don't know enough about her, but as we had said earlier, like she was kind of annoying to me.
Yeah.
But
she stood up for herself at the end.
Yes.
I just don't know if I can put up with her for a whole book.
Yeah. Well, I want to be in her head. Yeah. There's a picture.
It's pretty.
I liked that, you know, we were getting our impression of her from Astrid's point of view. And so Astrid was really exasperated with her, but it did seem like she knew what she was doing, spending time with her aunt and uncle. Like she didn't do it because she was ignoring Astrid. Mm-hmm. So when I make her POV, I won't be as annoyed with her.
And I like that she was like, not everyone can be like you, Astrid. Like I'm still strong. I'm still me, but I'm in a different, maybe more sneaky way.
Yeah, I do think she redeemed herself towards the end, and so yes, I have slight reservations about it, especially also I kind of get the impression there's cheating in it as well, which is not always my favorite thing to read about. But
I saw a review that said that.
Yeah, but because I enjoyed this one so much, I'm probably going to give it a go.
Yeah. When there's cheating that happens in a book, I'm intrigued of like what the grovel will look like, because sometimes it leads to an epic grovel. And especially when we're dealing in a historical time period, like still romance authors don't usually put cheating in there. Like if they've been away for 3 years, it'll maybe be that he's been celibate the whole time or something. So we'll have to see. Like my gut feeling is when there's quote unquote cheating happening, it's that everyone thinks that they're still cheating, but really they're just keeping up the appearances. Like that happens in a Jennifer Ackley book. Like it's fake cheating. Like everyone thinks it's happening, but he's really not. And that's my guess, but
that's my guess as well, that he's been out drinking and gambling and carousing with other guys, but that he's never actually sleeping around.
Yeah. And if he did, I'm interested to see what the would look like, because I like grovel. I just don't like when it's grovel because they cheated.
It's hard to forgive someone.
Yeah. Even in historical, when people didn't have the same expectations, you still as a romance don't usually put it on page. Like other people are cheaters, not your hero. Like your hero's not
right.
But yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me for this. Thanks for my friends who read this in 2 days. Thank you for being on my Discord and joining the buddy read. And I'm really excited for what other ones we're going to be taking on. And one thing I want to put out there for anyone who watches because I of course want my viewers to get the first pick at being on this. If you don't want to be seen, like there's an option of StreamYard to just have your audio. So if you want to join, but you're nervous about being on camera, you can always turn off your camera and just be, you can put up an avatar or something. So all of my viewers, I don't want you to feel excluded because you're afraid of being like seen. Yep. You can do that.
Just like that.
I was about to do that.
Yeah. You
Well,
can.
then I'll join you.
Yeah. But I invited some of my booktuber friends so that we had more of a panel, and Lynn's not afraid of anything. But if you're nervous about that, you can hide your face and still be on this. So definitely love to have you. But well, I'll let you guys get back to your Sunday. Thank you so much for joining. It was so much fun reading this book with you. Oh, I love you all. Look forward to the romances coming out next week. It's taking me forever to edit, so I hope you like it.
I'm excited.
All right, everyone have a great day. Love you guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.